Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little darker, a time of plagues, punishments, and pottage. We're diving into what life was really like during the Middle Ages. Forget the castles and chivalry Hollywood sold you. The truth is you probably wouldn't last a single day. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1325. The good news is, you're alive. The bad news is, so are the fleas. Your bed is a half-rotted straw mattress stuffed with bugs and hay that smells like a barn floor. It was a barn floor 3 months ago. There's no memory foam, no pillows, and definitely no Egyptian cotton sheets. Just a wool blanket that hasn't been washed since last winter. It now weighs roughly as much as a small cow from the accumulated grime. You blink awake as the church bell clangs in the distance. It's the medieval version of an alarm clock, only louder and somehow even less merciful. Your home is a wooden hut with one room, no windows, and a charming open-concept floor plan. Your family, livestock, and domestic insects all share the same space. The smell is a fragrant symphony, a subtle blend of stale beer, human sweat, goat, and something you pray isn't mold. You know in your soul it probably is. Scented candles haven't been invented, and even if they were, they would just melt on your dirt floor. You try to stretch but immediately regret it because the air is freezing and your joints ache. You're 22 years old, which in medieval terms is roughly middle-aged. Your spine cracks like an old wooden door. Your knees sound like a bag of rocks being shaken by a confused peasant. Getting out of bed is a gamble. The floor is either wet from last night's rain, which leaks through the thatched roof, or crusty from something your neighbor's chicken did. Either way, your bare feet are now part of the ecosystem. Oh, and privacy? What's that? Your entire family, and maybe a random cousin who just never left, are waking up beside you. There's no bedroom, no curtains, no me time. Just communal everything. Welcome to morning in medieval Europe, where you're never truly alone. Parasites, rodents, and 8 other people are always with you. And this is just how your day starts. It only gets worse from here. So you've managed to crawl out of your medieval haystack of horrors. Congrats. Now, nature calls, and it's not calling politely. It's screaming urgently. Here's the part where you start missing the modern bathroom. There's no toilet, no seat, no toilet paper, no flush, not even a mildly resentful plunger in the corner. In the 14th century, relieving yourself is an adventure, a social experiment, and often a small public event. If you're a peasant, your bathroom is likely a wooden bucket behind the house. It's already full because Uncle Wolfstan had a rough night after eating bad turnips. The smell is biblical. You hold your breath, do your business, and then here's the kicker. Toss it into the street. Yes, the street. You're supposed to shout something like "Garde-Lou" before dumping it out the window. That's old French for watch out below, although frankly, no one ever moves fast enough. Streets in medieval towns are open sewers, a charming river of human waste. Animal droppings and mystery liquids you'd rather not examine. If you're lucky enough to live in a town with public latrines, congratulations. You get to sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers in an outhouse. Privacy is a myth, and ventilation is a cruel joke. You might make small talk, but try not to breathe too deeply. Most people wipe with straw, leaves, rags, moss, or a scrap of wool. If they're feeling especially indulgent, a scrap of wool. Sometimes nothing at all. which might explain why handshakes weren't popular yet. And if you're in a castle, surely it's better, right? Well, sort of. You might have a guardrobe, a hole in the wall that drops your waist directly into the moat. Great idea, except that your enemies know this. Attackers sometimes climbed in through the waist chute. Talk about entering through the back door. So whether you're a farmer or a baron, medieval toileting is a humiliation ritual. It's cold, it's public, it's dangerous, and it's never not disgusting. One slip on a whetstone path and you're face first in humanity's leftovers. And you still haven't brushed your teeth, but we'll get to that next. You survived the toilet. You deserve a reward, right? Maybe a nice breakfast, something warm, delicious, comforting. Sorry, this is medieval Europe. Nothing is comforting here. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is a grim affair. There are no eggs Benedict, no coffee machine sputtering awake, and certainly no avocado toast. You sit down or squat near the fire to a wooden bowl of something that looks like it was scraped off a muddy boot. Welcome to your daily ration of pottage. Pottage is a thick, gloopy stew made of whatever you can find. Grains, root vegetables, maybe a few beans if you're lucky. It's been simmering in the same pot for days, sometimes weeks. New ingredients are just dumped on top of the old ones. It's less of a recipe and more of an ongoing edible experiment. On the side, you have a hunk of bread so hard it could deflect arrows. It's made from coarse rye or barley flour, often bulked up with sawdust. Ground up acorns or other creative ingredients because wheat is a rich man's fantasy. This loaf is not your friend. You don't slice it, you negotiate with it. What about drinks? You're not sipping orange juice or an oat milk latte. You're drinking beer. Yes, beer at 6:00 a.m. Why? Because the water is teeming with parasites and filth. So, you start your day with weak ale, low alcohol, high survivability. Kids drink it too. No one's happy about it. At least it won't kill you immediately. Want some meat or cheese? Dream on, diet tea. That's for Sundays and saints' feast days, and only if your lord is feeling generous. Most peasants don't eat meat more than a few times a year. As for fresh fruit, it's only available when it's in season, not already fermented into wine. Don't even think about spices unless you're royalty. Pinch of pepper costs more than your monthly wages. Salt is valuable enough to be locked away. So you chew your gritty bread, gulp your medieval beer. Try not to think about the rat that may have nibbled your pottage in the night. Breakfast doesn't energize you. It just happens to you. And now that you're properly underfed, it's time to work like your life depends on it. Because it absolutely does. So, you've eaten your sad medieval breakfast and now it's time to get dressed. Not that it'll help. Your wardrobe consists of exactly one outfit. One dirty saudi. It's a rough wool tunic or linen shift that you've worn every day for months, possibly years. There's no such thing as seasonal fashion. There's just wear this until it disintegrates or gives you a fungal infection. Underwear is optional. If you're lucky, maybe a linen undertunic. If you're not, well, you're going commando under layers of scratchy, sweaty wool, all lovingly stitched together by someone who probably had no idea what a seam was supposed to look like. There's also no washing machine, no soap, and absolutely no dry cleaner in sight. So, your clothes are stained, stiff, and scented like a compost pile. It's been left to marinate in a pigsty. Even if you wanted to wash them, it's not easy. You'd have to haul water from a river or well, heat it over a fire. Scrub your tunic on a board with ashes or lye. Hang it in the sun, which is out approximately 3 days a year. And don't get me started on shoes. If you own any, they're made of untreated leather barely stitched together. offer as much arch support as a banana peel. Most peasants just go barefoot through mud, dung, and medieval landmines, aka sharp rocks and disease puddles. All this means one thing: your skin hates you. You itch constantly. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs live rent-free on your body. Everyone has them. Nobles, lousy monks, itchy children, walking insect farms. No one escapes. You'll be scratching your armpit with a wooden spoon while chatting with the local priest. No one will even bat an eye. Your skin is raw from rubbing, your scalp a battlefield of bites. And if you develop a rash, well, too bad. There's no dermatologist, no hydrocortisone, no one to tell you it's probably scabies. You just keep on suffering. And if you're lucky enough to not get an infection, great. That rash will simply accompany you for the next 6 months, like an unwanted medieval sidekick. Now that you're dressed in misery and wrapped in discomfort, it's time to head outside. Start working yourself to death. Now that you're fully dressed in itches and damp wool, it's time to flash that morning smile. Except you don't, because in the Middle Ages, smiling is a dangerous game, not emotionally, dentally. There's no toothbrush, no toothpaste, no mouthwash, no floss. The concept of oral hygiene is about as popular as bathing, which is to say, not very. Some people might chew on a twig or rinse with wine or vinegar. But for the most part, your teeth are on their own, and they're not doing well. By the time you hit your mid-20s, your smile looks like something pulled from a haunted crypt. Cavities are rampant, gums are swollen, and those aren't just food stains on your teeth. That's decay. You have more rot in your mouth than a medieval root cellar. Sugar, while not yet everywhere, is becoming more common among the rich. Imported at great cost, mostly used in small cakes or to show off wealth. If you're a noble, congratulations, you get to rot your teeth faster than the peasants. If you're poor, you'll do it slowly over time with fermented bread, gritty pottage. Years of hard chewing. Toothaches? Get used to them. They're like medieval weather, always there in the background. The kind of pain that makes you consider praying, drinking, or pulling the tooth out yourself with a pair of pliers. And that's not a joke. That was the actual treatment. Dentists didn't really exist, but barber surgeons did. Yes, the same guy who cuts your hair is also pulling your molars out. By candlelight with an iron hook and zero anesthesia. Infected tooth? Hope you like fevers. Without antibiotics, it can easily turn into sepsis and kill you from a toothache. That's right. The same thing that sends us to a pharmacy today could be your funeral in the 1300s. And there's no relief on the social front either. Kissing? Oh. Good luck. Good luck. Halitosis, bad breath, is everywhere. If you're single, you're not judged by your smile. You're judged by your land and your livestock. In short, your mouth is a battlefield, and it's losing the war. Now that your teeth are throbbing, let's head outside. Because your real job, the one that will break your back, is just getting started. Time to head to work. Except there's no office, no desk, no coffee break, and no chance of promotion. Your job, if you're like 90% of the population, is simple. Don't die while laboring for someone else's comfort. You're a peasant. Congratulations. That means you work the land that belongs to a lord who probably doesn't remember your name. You rise with the sun and stop only when it disappears behind the trees. Your tools are a wooden hoe, a rusty sickle, and whatever bones are still intact in your body. There's no weekend, no clocking out. There's only sunrise to sunset, 6 days a week. Sunday is off, but only if you're not harvesting, fighting off raiders, or praying feverishly for your infected toe to stop turning black. The work is brutal. Fields are plowed by hand or with oxen if you're rich enough to afford one. You dig ditches, sow seeds, pull weeds, and carry water until your spine begins to resemble the letter S. No one cares if you're tired. No one's asking how your mental health is doing. If you're a woman, surprise, you don't just do field work. You also care for children, clean, cook, spin wool, feed animals. Pretend your husband's lice infestation isn't slowly migrating to your side of the bed. Children start helping out around age 5. No school, no toys, just a tiny wooden rake and a dream of not dying of the flu. And if you're one of the few who isn't a farmer, maybe you're a blacksmith, a tanner, or a cooper. Great. You still work with fire, chemicals, or animal guts all day, in poorly ventilated sheds. The pay is basically survival. The perks include occasional bleeding. Break a bone. Too bad. Get a fever? Drink some warm beer and keep going. You can't afford to stop, not even for a day. Because if you don't work, you don't eat. And if you don't eat, well, medieval Europe has a solution for that. It's called being replaced. So you grip your shovel, ignore the blisters, keep digging. Because in the Middle Ages, your job isn't a career. It's a slow-motion endurance test. Now that your back is on fire from laboring in the fields, let's talk about the weather. Because in the Middle Ages, temperature is less about seasons and more about ongoing punishment from the sky. Let's start with winter. There is no insulation, no central heating, and no weather stripping. Just wooden walls with gaps you could throw a chicken through. Your windows are covered with cloth, not glass. The fire in the hearth is nice in theory, but you don't have enough firewood. Because wood is expensive, and gathering it from the forest is sometimes illegal. Yes, you can be executed for picking up the wrong stick from the wrong forest. You bundle up in your one damp wool tunic, huddle near the dying embers. Still wake up with your nose frozen. Your feet are permanently cold, often damp. Your fingers are so stiff, they feel like tiny medieval popsicles. Frostbite isn't diagnosed, it's just called bad luck. Now, fast forward to summer. Sounds better, right? Wrong. In summer, your home turns into a clay oven. There's no fan, no cross breeze, and absolutely no deodorant. You sweat through your layers, but you can't remove them. Showing too much skin is scandalous and also invites sunburn, insect bites, and social judgment. The flies are out in full force, attracted to your unwashed body. The smell of last week's goat stew that's still fermenting in the corner. Mosquitoes buzz by your ear while you sleep, assuming you can sleep through the sound of your neighbors yelling and babies crying. In the fields, the sun bakes you. No sunblock, no hat, unless you fashioned one out of straw, like a desperate scarecrow. And the worst part, you still have to work. Heat stroke is just called taking a bad turn. So, you're either shivering in your own hovel, wondering if your toes will make it to spring, or you're sweating through your only pair of socks while your thighs chafe into oblivion. And the one thing that never changes, no matter the season, your clothes still itch, your food is still terrible, and your next job is still waiting. Welcome to climate control, medieval style. There is none. Feeling thirsty? Need to freshen up? Want to splash a little water on your face to wake up from this damp fever dream of a life? Too bad. In medieval times, water isn't your friend. It's trying to murder you quietly. Let's start with drinking. The nearby stream looks fresh, bubbling, and clear, like something out of a fantasy movie. But, spoiler alert, it's not. Upstream, someone just dumped a chamber pot into it. And if not that, then a dead pig is probably decomposing in it. Parasites, bacteria, and the entire microbial army of medieval Europe await in every sip. That's why people drank beer. Yes, beer, even children. But before you imagine medieval kids doing keg stands, understand that it was small beer, weak in alcohol, strong in survival. Brewing boiled the water, so it was safer than whatever flowed through the town ditch. Wine was another option if you were rich enough to afford it, unconcerned with functioning properly before noon. What about bathing? Surely water was used for cleaning. In theory, yes. In practice, absolutely not. See, back then, people believed bathing actually opened your pores and let the disease in. That's right, washing yourself was considered medically risky. You were apparently cleaner if you never removed the protective layer of filth caked onto your skin. Communal bathhouses did exist, but they quickly gained reputations as places for gossip, scandal, and sometimes full-on medieval extracurriculars. So, naturally, the church got involved and shut many down. Even if you did want to bathe, it was a full production. You'd need to fetch water from the well, boil it over a fire, fill a wooden tub that leaked, and then pray no one else in the house used it before you. Or worse, after. And rainwater collected in open barrels where birds poop, insects breed, and moss thrives. Sounds refreshing, doesn't it? So whether it's going in your mouth, on your body, or onto your crops, water in the Middle Ages is less of a life source, more of a gamble. One wrong gulp and you're spending your final days sweating in a straw bed, clutching your stomach and contemplating all your life choices. Next time you sip tap water, raise a glass for our ancestors. They didn't have the luxury of hydration without hazard. So you drank the water. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you just stubbed your toe on a rock shaped like disappointment. Either way, you're sick. You need help. You need a doctor. Too bad you live in the Middle Ages where medicine is really just polite torture. With a theology degree, let's start with the diagnosis. Everything wrong with you, whether it's a cough, rash, broken bone, or the creeping plague, is caused by your humors being out of balance. The four humors were blood, flame, yellow bile, and black bile. According to medieval science, your health depends on keeping them balanced, like some sort of internal soup. Got a fever? Too much blood. The answer is bloodletting. That's right. Let's drain your life force into a bowl, using a dull blade or a hungry leech. And yes, barbers were often the ones doing it. Imagine getting a haircut and a hemoglobin extraction in one sitting. 2 for 1, baby. Die. If bloodletting doesn't fix you, and spoiler alert, it probably won't, they might try trepanning. That's drilling a hole in your skull to let the bad spirits out. No anesthesia, just vibes and a prayer. Got a stomachache? Here's some mercury. Feeling sad? Try swallowing a wolf's eyeball. Spoiler, these treatments often did more harm than good. Most doctors weren't trained like they are today. They were often monks or scholars who read Aristotle and decided they were qualified. Actual surgeons were considered tradesmen, like butchers, with better knives. Fun fact, the red and white barber pole comes from the bloody bandages hung out to dry after a procedure. So, you're probably better off with a local wise woman who'll give you some herbs and a charm to ward off demons. At least the placebo effect might kick in, because there's no pharmacy, no painkillers, just a world where pain is your personality trait. And death is always one bad Tuesday away. If you're really desperate, you might visit a saint's shrine. Hope a miracle cures your oozing foot sore. Spoiler, it probably won't. So you limp back home, poorer but no healthier, wondering if you should have just stayed in bed. And here's the kicker, you don't even get a break, because the harvest doesn't care about your fever or your oozing sores. You work, You hurt, you pray, you sleep. Repeat until you drop. That's medieval healthcare in a nutshell. So, you're sick, you're tired, you're covered in lice. Your teeth hurt, your back hurts, everything hurts. But it's time to socialize because humans are humans. Even in the Middle Ages, people needed connection. Where do you go? Probably the local tavern. It's not a bar like today with cocktails and karaoke. It's a smoky, loud wooden shack where everyone's drinking the same bad ale you had for breakfast. The floor is sticky. The air smells like feet. Someone's probably arguing about whose pig wandered into whose field. You sit on a wobbly bench, sip your ale. Try to flirt with someone who doesn't have scurvy. Good luck with that. Marriage isn't about love. It's about survival. You're picking a partner who can plow a field or churn butter without complaining. Romance is a luxury, like clean water or not dying at 30. If you were young, you might go to a village dance, held in a barn or churchyard with a fiddler who's 3 beers deep. You're not showing off your best moves. You are just trying not to step on someone's bare feet or their loose chicken. Festivals are a big deal, though, especially religious ones. Think saints' days or harvest celebrations. You might get a day off, some extra food, maybe even a morality play where actors pretend to be demons. Everyone cheers when the devil gets dragged to hell. Spoiler, the devil looks like your neighbor who stole your turnips. But socializing isn't all fun. You're under constant scrutiny. Gossip spreads faster than the plague. Step out of line, and you're the talk of the tavern. The church is always watching, ready to call you a heretic, or a witch if you're a woman who knows too many herbs. And let's not forget the village hierarchy. The lord, the priest, the miller, all have power over you. You're at the bottom. Unless you're a woman, then you're even lower. So, you keep your head down, laugh at the bad ale. Hope no one notices you didn't go to church last Sunday. Socializing in the Middle Ages is a delicate dance. One wrong step, and you're ostracized. Or worse, tied to a stake. By now, your day is dragging. You're sweaty, you're starving, you're probably injured. It's time to head home for dinner, or what passes for it. Spoiler, it's pottage again. Surprise, it's the same gluey mess you had this morning. Maybe with a new carrot or a questionable chunk of cabbage. If you're lucky, there's bread, still hard enough to double as a weapon. You sit on the floor, or a wobbly stool. No table, no plates, just a shared wooden bowl. You scoop with your hands or a spoon you've had since you were 6. The kids are fighting over the one non-rotten turnip. Your spouse is complaining about the neighbor's cow. It's chaos, but it's home. You're so tired you barely taste the food, which is probably a blessing. You sip more ale because water is still trying to kill you. Then it's time for bed. You crawl onto your straw mattress, still crawling with bugs. Pull the damp wool blanket over your head. Try to ignore the fact that your cousin is snoring 2 feet away. The fire's gone out, so it's freezing. Or it's summer, and you're sweating through your lice. Either way, sleep is a gamble. You might wake up to a rat nibbling your toes, or a neighbor banging on the door because their pig escaped again. If you're lucky, you get a few hours of rest before the church bell screams at you to start the whole cycle again. That's the rhythm of life in the Middle Ages. Wake, work, eat, hurt, sleep, repeat. Every day is a battle, and you're not winning. You're just surviving. And yet, somehow, people did it. They laughed, they loved, they raised families. They built cathedrals that still stand today. They didn't just survive. They laid the foundation for the world we live in now. So, the next time you're annoyed because your coffee order took too long, or your Wi-Fi is spotty, take a moment. Think about your medieval counterpart who didn't even have the luxury of complaining because they were too busy trying not to die. And if you think this sounds rough, just wait. We haven't even talked about the Black Death yet. That's a whole other nightmare. But we'll save that for another night. For now, let's leave the Middle Ages behind. Move to someone who actually thrived in tough times. Someone who turned survival into an art form. Let's talk about Catherine the Great. Born Sophie Auguste Frederica in 1729, she wasn't Russian at all. She was a minor German princess with big dreams and bigger ambition. At 14, she was shipped off to Russia to marry Peter III, a man who loved toy soldiers more than actual leadership. The Russian court was a snake pit of gossip, betrayal, and power plays. But Catherine was a quick study. She learned Russian, converted to Orthodoxy, and charmed everyone, while quietly plotting her own rise. Peter III was a disaster as emperor, alienating everyone. Catherine saw her chance. In 1762, she staged a coup with the help of her lover, Grigory Orlov, and the military. Peter was deposed, and later, conveniently, died. Catherine was crowned empress, and she didn't look back. She ruled for 34 years, expanding Russia's borders, modernizing its government, and boosting its culture. She corresponded with Voltaire, patronized the arts, built schools and hospitals. But she wasn't a saint. She kept serfdom firmly in place, crushed rebellions without mercy. Her personal life? Let's just say she enjoyed her power, and her lovers who were often younger and very loyal. Catherine wasn't just surviving, she was rewriting the rules. She turned a hostile court into her playground, a backward empire into a global powerhouse. That's the kind of energy we need to channel sometimes. From a nobody princess to one of history's greatest rulers. Catherine's life reminds us that sometimes you don't just endure the game. You flip the board and make your own rules. Speaking of flipping the board, let's pivot to someone else who rewrote the rules in her own way. Not a historical figure, but a fictional icon who commands attention. The Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland. Created by Lewis Carroll in 1865, she's chaos in a crown, with her infamous cry of, "Off with their heads!" She's not just a villain, she's a force of nature. The Red Queen rules Wonderland with an iron grip. Her temper is legendary, her logic absurd. She demands croquet with flamingos and hedgehogs, paints white roses red because she can't stand imperfection. But there's something magnetic about her. She's unapologetic, larger than life. In a world where everything is nonsense, she's the loudest nonsense of all. She doesn't care about being liked. She demands to be obeyed. And in her own twisted way, she's thriving. The Red Queen teaches us that sometimes you have to embrace the chaos. Not to destroy, but to create your own order. She's not just shouting for heads, she's shouting for control. In a world that's already mad, why not be the maddest? From one bold woman to another, let's shift gears again. To someone who took pain and turned it into art. Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter who became a legend. Born in 1907, Frida's life was a masterclass in resilience. At 6, she survived polio, which left her with a limp. At 18, a horrific bus accident shattered her body. She spent months in bed, her spine, pelvis, and dreams broken. But Frida didn't just survive. She transformed. She started painting from her hospital bed, using a mirror to create raw, vivid self-portraits. Her work wasn't gentle. It was blood, bones, and truth. She painted her pain, her miscarriages, her broken heart, especially after her turbulent marriage to Diego Rivera, another giant of Mexican art who loved her, but couldn't stay faithful. Frida's paintings weren't just art, they were her rebellion against a world that tried to break her. She embraced her Mexican heritage, wearing bright Tijuana dresses, flowers in her hair, defiance in her eyes. She didn't hide her scars, she made them her signature. Frida became an icon, not just for her art, but for her spirit. She partied with Trotsky, dined with Rockefeller, stared down a world that wasn't ready for her. Her life wasn't easy. Chronic pain, countless surgeries, a love life that swung between ecstasy and agony. But she never stopped creating. Even when she was bedridden, she painted. Even when doctors told her to rest, she partied. Frida died in 1954, but her art lives forever. She took a broken body and made it a masterpiece. That's the thread that ties all these stories together. From the medieval peasant grinding through life, to Catherine rewriting an empire, to the Red Queen ruling her chaos, to Frida painting her pain into power. They all faced a world that wasn't built for them, and they didn't just survive it, they shaped it. So, what's your medieval pottage? What's the thing you're slogging through right now? Whatever it is, you're tougher than you think. Because if they could do it, so can you. Thanks for joining me tonight, folks. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know what you thought in the comments. Tell me what historical era or figure you want to dive into next. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and maybe check your bed for fleas. Good night.